The definition of conviction is a firmly held belief. Leadership looks different for each person, but every leader has strong convictions that pave the way for how they guide their people. Whether you're an experienced leader, a current leader, a novice leader, or a soon-to-be leader, this podcast is a must for you. Through this show, you will hear leaders share their convictions, the struggles they face, and the challenges they have overcome by staying true to their convictions. Leadership can be hard and it can be lonely. I aim to connect you with leaders who have walked the journey and want to show others the way. This is Beau Vincent, and you're listening to The Conviction of a Leader. Welcome back to The Conviction of a Leader. This is your host, Beau Vincent. I'm excited to have yet again another great friend, Judd Lavender. Welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me out here.
Oh, dude, thank you for joining. Honestly, I feel like it's been a long time coming. I've been waiting to get you on. I'm glad that we could squeeze you in. I know you're a busy man and you always have something going, so I appreciate you making time for me. That's what I appreciate.
Truth be told, I'm not busy, and I've been waiting on you to get me on the show. So,
Yeah, just let me talk for 1 second. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to introduce all the listeners out there to Judd Lavender. Judd is from Vancouver, Washington. He's married to Kara. He's been married for 26.5 years. My God. And he's only 28. So I don't know how he did that. But as you can see, he is a man of youthfulness and fun and laughter, which you're going to come to find out. In I don't know how this is possible, but yes, he has 2 daughters and 2 sons and a son-in-law. Not even sure how that's possible at 27, but yeah. So he's kind of living the dream with 2 daughters and 2 sons. I tried to have a girl, but I don't know why. It just didn't work. I had a third boy, and I told my wife if we want to go for 4, it'll probably be a boy. Are you okay with that? So we still have 3 sons. So originally, Judd went into financial advising with the Ameriprise in 1999, and he said he failed miserably. I'm sure he'll probably tell us a little bit about that if we just ask ever so slightly about it. So after 4 years of being broke, he left the industry and started selling Bowflex for 1.5 years. He came back into the financial services industry in 2004, joining his current firm. He was inducted into the All-State Financial Hall of Fame in 2017, which I know was a highlight of his career thus far because honestly, I was there. I was not there. I wasn't an agent yet, but I knew about you before I met you because you're that good. You won Best in Company for Top Financial Services Representative more than once, actually twice. You've achieved 68 production-related awards, which is unbelievable over 20 years. So that's an average of like almost 4 a year. Or 3 a year, a little over 3 a year. Sorry. So that's crazy. You set the all-time production record for Allstate in 2021 with 2.1 in GDC. And if you don't know what that means, Judd will talk a little bit more about that later because a lot of listeners may not be as educated. So yeah, when we do these acronyms, we'll just educate them on what it is. Today, he manages approximately 100 million in assets and have issued over 1 billion in life insurance, death benefits. He runs a small but efficient team himself, another producer, a full-time assistant, and 1 telemarketer. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, you created what's it called? After the sale, no sales training for life insurance and financial services. Avid car lover, volunteer of many car shows, as well as showing his own cars. He loves to spend time with his family, traveling the world, many Disney trips I've seen, coaching softball, playing with his dog Bentley. And I'm going to add this: Judd is awesome at social media. He's hilarious. If you don't follow him, I'm telling you right now, not only do you need to follow the podcast and turn on the auto downloads and notifications, but I will beg you to also follow my friend Judd. He is hilarious. He has a lot of memes, a lot of reels. You're going to enjoy just following him, and you're going to learn something too along the way. You're going to learn that he has a zest and a love for people in life, which is why he's on the show today. Welcome to the Conviction of a Leader, Judd Lavender, my friend. Let's go.
Awesome. That was a
Yeah.
lot, dude.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot. You got a lot of awards and a lot of accolades. You have a lot of family. You have a lot of life to
A lot
cover
of a
in
lot.
a lot in 20 years, so Judd, what's up? So let's talk about this journey, man. So, I know where you're at today, and we're going to work our way up to where you're at today at this 100 million with the team under you now, small but mighty team. But let's talk about where your leadership journey started and why you might have failed miserably back then.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm dealing with this right now with kids, right? Going
Yeah.
back to the kids real quick, I would have stopped if I had two boys. So I don't know why you went for three. I started with two girls. I always wanted boys because I wanted to coach sports. I wanted
Oh,
to
dude,
do all
that
the
has been
dad
awesome
stuff, right?
coaching sports. Yeah.
Turns out I was coaching my daughter in sports, not my sons, but
Yeah.
we got lucky and got two of each.
Yep.
Um, Anyways, the reason I go back to that is it wouldn't nothing would have happened if it wasn't for my wife. My wife was the
Mm,
one that pushed me into the career I'm in now.
I love
I
that.
was working at a bank. I was a teller, and shortly after that, I got into the investment side at the bank, but severely underpaid. So I decided I wanted to be a stockbroker. Went to Ameriprise in 1999, and didn't do well. So I shared this story with a lot of people. There was a time my second oldest was a little baby. I came home for lunch, was trying to get money together. My wife said we needed bread, right? And there was nothing in the bank. So I literally dug through couch cushions, the dryer, wherever I could find loose change, went and bought a loaf of bread. And I was working my dream job, at least I thought I was. I came home and realized I needed to make a change. Uh,
Wow.
Buddy of mine was the model for Bowflex. He was on all their infomercials,
No way.
and so I decided to give Bowflex a run. And I will never forget when I quit my job at Ameriprise. This was 2001, 2002. My boss told me I was doing myself a favor because I would never survive in this industry. I didn't have what it took.
Ouch.
And so I went off to sell Bowflex. I learned real quick selling both. I was in their call center, right? I was just answering phones as these calls were coming in from infomercials. I learned super, super quick that it was just a law of large numbers, man. The more calls I was on every day, the more sales I made. It was that simple.
Mm.
I could be a complete idiot on the phones,
Yeah.
but the timing, one thing I was in control of was how many times I picked up the phone.
Mm.
And that
That's
lesson
great
carried
advice.
forward. You know,
Great advice
it's
for a lot of people in the industry specifically.
Yeah, it's cool when you can figure out your X, everything else takes care of itself, right?
Mm.
There's so much in your
So true.
control in sales. And the biggest part
Yeah.
is getting off your butt. Just if you suck at what you do, just talk to more people. It's really that simple. Somebody's
True.
going to feel bad for you and say yes, right? Or
I
you're going
know,
to hit
right?
someone at the right time. And
So
that's what
true.
it really came down to for me. So, yeah, I wasn't sure if I should say the name of the company or not, but 2004, I was recruited while I was sitting there selling Bowflex. And by the way, I did quite well at Bowflex. In fact, I got put on the team that dealt with celebrities. I got to know
Oh,
Gwen
sweet.
Stefani.
Ha!
Um, Went to her concerts, got backstage with her in the band, and so
No doubt.
it was a cool
No
gig,
doubt.
no doubt. That's right, dude.
Sorry, I mean, yeah.
uh,
That's a dad joke.
So that was cool. It was a
Mhm.
lot of fun, but at the same, I was missing purpose, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a exercise equipment salesman for the rest of my life. I didn't see value to that.
Hmm.
So when Allstate gave me the call to come and offer financial services, it's a at the time it was a newer position they had. I'd work with agencies, talking to their customers about life insurance, investing, you name it in that realm. Uh, I decided to take a chance, but I made a promise to my wife that I wouldn't hang on too long if we weren't making it. Right.
Mm.
In fact, I was
Yeah.
thinking last night when I was putting that little bio together for you. I remember it was my first or second year. I went to Mexico for one of our awards trips.
Yeah.
I remember sitting poolside with my wife. It was our honor ring trip that year. And I told my
Dang.
wife, I said, take it in because it might be the only one you ever get. I had a lot of doubt in myself at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like it.
I I put those doubts behind, and like I said, 2017 I was the first one in the Northwest to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and with that, more confidence comes too, right?
Yeah.
So I try to stay grounded still, but I know where I came from. I know where I'm going, and that's really my story of how I got to today.
Dude, I love that. Hey, remind me, where did you grow up in the listeners? Do you grow up in Ohio?
So I grew up all over the place. I spent a little
Yeah.
bit of time in Utah when I was a kid. I spent half of my teenage years in Ohio. I was
Nice.
in Brunswick, Ohio. I don't know if you know where
Yeah.
that's at.
Oh, yeah. I'm not far. I mean, might be 45 minutes max from Brunswick.
Yeah,
So
because you're up.
I'm in Hudson.
All right, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I went to Brunswick High School for my freshman and sophomore years. The Blue
Nice.
Devils.
Yeah. Blue
Who
Devils.
knows if they're
Ha!
allowed to be called Blue Devils anymore? Because
I actually don't know. I'd have to double check.
I moved from there out
Probably.
to Vancouver, Washington, and graduated as a chieftain, which is now no longer a chieftain, right? It's been changed. So
What is it?
there was the
A
Columbia
chieftain?
River Chieftains, which people took offense to. So now they're the Columbia River Rapids.
Oh, thought you were going to say
They're a
rats.
river rapid. Um, I have no idea what that is.
Well, it is the rapids of a river. But
That's
why would that
exactly what it
be?
is. I,
Yeah,
I don't
but
know what the
like that's not a
mascot looks like.
mascot, right? That's a river. That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, people stretch it. They're grasping for straws on that, huh? So I appreciate you sharing that. You know what's crazy to me is to hear you win such a great honor and an award, and then there was still doubt in you about it. Like almost like, did you feel like it was luck back then? Like, what do you think got you through that? And how did you win in that first year, second year?
The reality is, yeah, I felt like it was all luck, which is why I told my wife, don't expect this. I still, I think it's the natural man in us to have doubt.
I
Right?
yeah.
I think a lot of people put on the image that they're super confident that everything's going to go well, but inside we tend to doubt ourselves. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm going to use a really weird analogy here. When we stretch ourselves, we've moved that barrier one level forward, right?
Mm,
So this is this is the goofiest analogy you'll probably ever hear me use, but
I like it.
out of boredom, I started playing this stupid game on my phone, like
Okay.
Blockbuster or something, it's
Yeah.
like Tetris, right? And it's a numbing game. Well, I remember playing it, and I was always trying to get to like 10,000 points. The other day, I'm sitting there bored. That tells you how bored my life is. I'm sitting there on my phone, and I'm at like 50,000 points on this, and I thought to myself, "Holy crap! I remember trying to get to 10, and now 10 is my I hit 10 within seconds, right? And this is a stupid game. I'm not a gamer. That's just not my style. But it got me to thinking it's so much like business because every time I've pushed the mark out, that's been my reset.
Mm, it's good.
You know,
It's a good reminder.
there were years ago when my goal was to do it, and back to this GDC thing. GDC is gross dealer concessions, credits, whatever you want to call it. Um, that year that I went to Mexico, I qualified by doing 100,000 that year, which is crazy. Now Mexico is a base trip, and we have our top trips, our inner circle, and that. Which, as I was looking at the awards, I've made 15 times in a row now, which is just crazy, right?
Dang,
I'm
dude.
the guy that was supposed to fail at this, and somehow I got
Yeah.
lucky,
And
right?
somebody told you you would fail. Not only did you,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
they told
believed it
you.
for a long time. I think I started to discount that feeling as I was walking on the stage to be inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Dang,
And
that's a
even
while,
then,
huh?
being on your podcast, it's little things like that that I have to remind myself. I'm like, why am I asked to do this? I'm just Judd. I'm just,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like often um, I belong at the little kid table, but I'm being invited to the big kids table,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's these reality checks, and this is really my life. But getting back to that, as that envelope gets pushed, I, I I post a lot on Facebook, as you know, and I remember it wasn't too many years ago I was posting about how I was so excited that I was going to do 500,000 points that year, right? And 500 became 750, and 750. This will be my third out of the last 4 years. I'll hit a million this week, or probably next week. Um, it wasn't but 5, 6 years ago that
Wow.
my local manager sat me down and said, "You might be the first one ever in the Northwest to hit a million." Right. And I remember how we just laughed about it and thought it was the coolest thing to hit a million. That year I hit 2.1 million. Right. We
That's
didn't we didn't just hit the first, we blew through it.
blew it.
And I will say that was a lot of luck. That was a lot of big cases, but luck is earned, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
We did the work. Um, but I don't know, man. To answer that question, I feel like there's a lot of luck in everything we do. Playing sports, things go our way, but luck won't happen if you don't put in the effort.
Hmm. Yeah.
I do believe there's a level of luck in all we do.
Well, you have to show up for luck to happen too.
Yeah,
For it, you have to be kind of the right place, right time. For you ever heard people say, "I guess I was lucky, right place, right time,"
yeah,
and but you put in the effort to be there. One, two, something that I've been obsessed with, Judd, personally, is that doubt is almost always on my mind, and people wouldn't think that. But the
yeah,
next thought is positive reinforcement to myself consistently. And I don't know if it's a childhood thing or where it came from, but yes, it's similar to you. It's like I used to think in Justin Harkleroad said this, you know him, friend,
yeah,
and I love like this, so I'm going to steal his line. He said, "My biggest fear is when are people going to figure are going to find out I'm a fraud and I'm figuring it out as I go."
yeah,
Like I don't actually know exactly what I'm doing. When are people going to figure that out? I sometimes get that same thought of like, you know, I reinforce myself with thoughts. So this is biblical, but it's also like a philosophical, philosophic thought, and I think it's some Asian proverb or something. But I love it. I'm going to be honest. Your thoughts turn into your words turn into your actions turn into your character determines your destiny. So it all starts with thoughts, right?
yep,
And I do have a lot of negative or self-doubt thoughts still to this day. And a lot of people would think I don't. But the thing I've trained myself on, the very next thought is reinforcement. And is that you do deserve to run this podcast. You do have 18 years of leadership experience. Where on one side I say, am I really even qualified to run this? Am I really even qualified to run a leadership academy, be a CWC coach, to run a business? So like these things still come into my mind way less than they used to, but they still do. But then I reinforce myself with similar thoughts to you is like, I know that I have a value in this world. And I know that you do too. And you've worked very hard at, being a better person, and you've gotten bigger and better as you've went because you work so hard at just being a good person. And one of the things that I've learned over this podcast is I used to think I need to work on being a better leader. I've realized that, hey, one of the core things of being a better leader is being a better person. Isn't that funny?
Yep.
Automatically, a bad person's usually not the best leader, right?
Yep.
So you're a really good person. I enjoy spending time with you. I got to know you. Do you remember when I first met you?
Yep.
Let's like let the listeners. I You were a little bit of a legend. Um, I was it what year did you break the 2 million? Was it 19? What year was that? 21.
21.
So I ran into you in the lobby at San Diego and I
I still
recognized
remember
you
that
from
exact
from
moment, dude.
online and I was like, "Hey man, I'm kind of a newer agent." And I introduced myself and like I felt pretty good about myself like cuz I was at a trip that you were on. And I was like, but you know what was so good is that I didn't expect you to remember me. I expected you to say hello and be nice and disappear because you never know how like top performers are going to interact with people that own businesses and lead them on their own. Like you just don't know. And you took the time to talk to me, introduced me to your wife. I was with my wife. I went out,
Yep.
walked away. I said, "He's the best guy in the company for financial services. He's the best." I said to my wife. And how fun is that though? We have that memory, and then I'll never forget you took a picture of me at the San Diego Padres game.
Yep.
We ended up at the same game, and I was standing back like this with that
You,
necklace
you
on.
had that big gold chain.
And you took a picture. So, you know, people, part of doubt is this, I believe, Judd, to assume that everybody doubts themselves versus to think that everybody actually is so confident. And then how can we impact the world and other people by assuming most people actually doubt themselves and they need positive reinforcement? They need you to show them and tell them, "Hey, Judd, I'm going to tell you right now, Judd, something if no one's told you this. I hope no one has, but I also hope they have. I hope I can help. Judd, you should be proud of yourself. That is the most important person because it's so weird. We start to think it's like, I want to tell you something. I could say, Judd, I'm proud of you. But what if you're like, I'm not proud of myself? It doesn't, you're that, invalidate everything I said. But if you can say, I am proud of myself, then you can accept my validation saying
Yeah.
that you should be proud of yourself. So I'm stopping to say this to you. 2.1 million wasn't an accident. You didn't stumble upon it. It wasn't even luck. I think that you've earned it and deserved it. You manifested it. You believed it slowly more each year. And you should be proud of yourself, not just for work, but the legacy that you've left, the kids that you have that love you. It's evident they love you. I love that. And I hope my kids love me the way your kids do. Your wife loves you. You're living the dream in my book. My book is somebody just asked me on the last podcast, Judd, and I'll stop talking after this. But he asked
You're
me to
good, man.
picture who you want to be and think and start to envision yourself. What car is it? What this, that? And I thought, I can't even picture the car, even though I love cars like you. I actually just picture myself gripping the steering wheel, sunshine hitting my face, smiling, my wife smiling with her arm on my hand or shoulder, and my kids in the back seat, fully grown, still wanting to be with me. That's what I picture when I think about how a successful life is going to be lived. And it's funny because money, car, house actually didn't come into that. It's the legacy and the family wanting to be around me. And I actually see that on your life and it attracts me to you. So I almost get emotional about it because it's a big deal. You did a good job. You've done a good job. If you ended today, you did it. If you ended today. So you should be
Appreciate
proud
that,
of
man.
yourself.
This has been a good therapy session. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I didn't mean it to be like that, but it just came to me and you've done a good job. So it's important to stop and salute that. And now let's move forward. Okay. We
Yeah,
can't stay
and
there.
you know the tough part too, often I think in life, and I don't know that everyone feels this way, but finding balance, right? I think I worry too much, and I'm sure a lot of people get this way. Some may not. That uh, don't let it all go to your head. Don't let your head get too big, right?
Never.
And sometimes you ground yourself too much. But I'll tell you one area where I don't ground myself too much, and that's when I'm working with my clientele.
Mm,
I approach every meeting with confidence. I believe momentum is so real. Goes back to the stupid example of playing a video game, right? It's momentum is in sports, everything we do, momentum exists. There is
Mm,
a motion in life
so true.
that we have to grip onto. And boy, man, when that momentum is rolling, I think of it like a kite that's taking you into the sky, dude. You hold on as tight as you can and you go. You don't hold back.
I
And I think that's where so many
love
people
that.
fail in life too, is they celebrate momentum instead of embracing it,
Yeah.
right?
I
And I've seen that in basketball. A guy hits a pretty hot three or something, and he's back pumping his arms in the air, and the other guy is running down the court scoring, right? Because
and then
he's
it takes their
celebrating too
momentum.
soon.
Yep.
But there's that balance, because if you don't celebrate your wins, they become mundane.
Mm.
And
You ever met a winner that was not happy? I have actually,
yeah,
because they're so
plenty,
used to winning. Yes.
plenty.
And that is such a great like thought. I'm so glad you brought it up. We'll revisit. Feel like you got more on your brain, your mind. Keep going.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. Is you see it in professional sports all the
Yeah.
time. I
All
mean,
the time.
how many times you see guys taking people at the top of their game taking their own lives,
Doesn't even make sense.
right? And part of that is, and that's where that balance worries me sometimes, is we get to a high and we can't get any higher, and so it can wear on somebody. But take that back to what you were just saying about leadership. I don't run a big team, um, but I do. And what I mean by that is, in my realm, I work with. I think of myself a lot, kind of similar. My dad was in pharmaceutical sales when I was growing up. That's why we moved around so much, right? And my dad would call on doctors' offices, and my dad's clientele was doctors, nurses, pharmacists, right? My clientele is insurance agencies and their staff. And then I've got my own clients that I've built through referrals from these offices. So I've had to learn how to manage so many different personalities, so many different offices. And let's face it, I deal with business owners all day long through these insurance
Oh
agencies,
yeah.
not just
Yes.
clients. And there are
Owners.
so many different personalities and arrogance and different things you've got to deal with. But the thing I'm learning and I'm still trying to develop is what you said before, and that's a belief in yourself. Um, I'll probably slaughter this, but years ago, back in my Feld days at American Express, I had a guy that used to always teach us all these stories. Right, I'm a
Hmm.
I'm a big storyteller with work,
I love it.
and he taught us, back in the O.J. Simpson case, the lead attorney was Johnny Cochran, I believe was his
Yep.
name.
Yep.
And they asked Johnny Cochran afterwards, and I share this with the agencies I work with all the time. How did you get the jury to believe he was innocent? Right? If it don't fit, you must have quit.
Yeah.
And he said, to be believable, or excuse me, to be believed, you have to be believable. And to be believable, you must believe.
Yeah.
And that was the whole model. And that's what I teach these offices is,
Mm.
you cannot expect a person to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
I
And you can fake it till you
totally
make
agree
it,
that. Yes.
but you don't want to be like you said about Justin, right? You don't want to be exposed as a fraud, right?
No.
And whether that was true or not, because we all downright know that OJ was guilty. Johnny Cochran did such a damn good job of believing what he was saying that we believed him, or the jury did at least enough to
So
acquit.
true.
So how do we get that on ourselves? And I think when we show that in us, leadership takes care. I believe that's a big part of leadership. I coached travel league softball for years with my daughter.
Yeah.
I started when they were 8, 9 years old. And the beginning days of that was teaching girls to swing the bat,
Right.
right? They
Basic
learned real quick
fundamentals.
that they could just stand and take all the pitches in the world and get walked. And they saw success in doing nothing, right?
Oh
If
yeah.
I do nothing, the other guy will fail enough that I will succeed. And I was like, this is not what I want them learning. So I had to teach them to be okay with failure. And I had to find creative ways that came down to me paying them, right? Crazy enough. I started paying my girls to strike out. And that's what started my coaching program of go for the no or after the no
I love that. Yeah.
was it's okay to get rejected. In fact,
Yeah.
if you're not being rejected, you're not playing the game,
Phew.
right? And
Yeah.
then everything was able to develop from that point forward. But we had to get to the point where we were comfortable with rejection. And by the way, when rejection is fun, dude, life is so awesome.
Isn't it?
I love rejection. In fact, dude, I grew up a little fat bald guy. Well, I wasn't bald when I was younger, but right. I wasn't always getting all the yeses as a kid. And
Yeah.
I had two left feet playing sports. I sucked. And that's what's been so cool about my career is I've never really had success in those other areas.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's a little mind-boggling, I guess, for lack of better terms, to see
Yeah.
that play out. But just encourage rejection, right?
It's
And of
funny.
course, our goal isn't to always be rejected, but
No.
if we don't fear rejection, man, that's how so many guys outkick their coverage, right?
Oh, yeah. Right? So true.
The pretty girls are the ones that aren't getting asked out because everyone's scared
Yeah.
to ask them out.
Yes. I know. So true. That's
And
how I
it's the
got
little goofy guy,
Kristen.
the little Beau Vincent that comes
Yeah.
up with his
The
gold
little
chain. By the way, I remember when I still remember vividly meeting you that time, believe it or not. We were
Nice.
standing by the escalators
Yep. Yep.
at the hotel lobby, and you had on your black and white striped jersey.
Yep.
You dressed like the ref, and but I remember you had your beautiful wife with you, and I thought, man, how's this goofy guy got? No, I didn't.
No, I mean,
But
you could think that. I still take it. I don't mind that thought.
but
I
it's so true, man.
mm,
I just
I
think in life,
I agree.
we just have to be willing to get kicked.
Yeah. I like the thought of like teaching people, especially those listening, that this is a good reminder for me and for all of us is to make big goals. Don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of going for the sale, going for the yes and getting the no. If the no is always holding you back from doing what you want to do, then you'll never get to do what you want to do. Isn't that crazy? So I love the thought process that you're bringing up, and it's like, yes, if I wouldn't have had the guts, like, to run a business or to do this or to get rejected or fail in business, I would have never started a business because failure of business is what stopped me from starting a business until I was 33, 34. So I wanted to do it since I was a kid. You know, I was very similar to you. I was always pretty like average on every sport, wasn't the worst on any team, was never really the best sports wise, but I was always on the teams. Um, didn't get no girls, didn't get the best girls, right? Or
Yeah.
all the girls, I should say. So I was always like kind of right in the middle. And I think mediocrity or being in the middle can also be a weird place to live too. So being the worst or at the bottom or being mediocre and getting used to that is also not a good place to be either. So when I excuse me, started to think about that, it took until my junior year of high school where somebody actually told me I was really good at something. And it was my business teacher was like, you have like a business mind and you're naturally a leader. And she didn't say this verbatim, but in a roundabout way, she said, "You're a great leader and a class clown. Thank you." And people follow you, and you can lead them towards me or away from me, essentially. And I was like, it's so crazy. I've now used that with my kids' teachers about my middle son is that he's a natural leader and that he's either going to lead people towards you or away from you. So you need to, if you understand he's a leader, you can harness that. So she got me to see, wow, I like business. I'm drawn to business entrepreneurship. I'm actually naturally pretty good at it. So in life, sometimes we gravitate to things we're really good at. and then we want to be the best at it. And that's what happened with this is I learned that I wanted to gravitate towards it, and I got past the rejection. That's how I got my wife. I got past the rejection of starting a business. That's how I have a successful business is like, and one thing I've learned of is late when people quit, I tell them the truth. Not when I fire them. I always tell the truth all the time. But I learned as a business owner, it's actually started when I was a business owner. I had 18 years of leadership before that, but as a business owner, I've actually learned like when somebody quits and they say, I'm going somewhere, I actually tell them the truth now. I'm going to miss you. It's going to suck. I used to hold it in. So, well, you want to go? Fine. I'm a steel cage. It ain't going to affect me, but ain't going to bother me. You want to go? Go. Or not say anything. But now I actually tell them the truth. I'm going to miss you. I'm not sure how we're going to replace you. I'm sure we will, just not sure. I don't see it. You were so great to the culture, the addition of the team. And I used to like hold that in. Why? Because of rejection. I was afraid that they would say something like, I'm not going to miss you. I'm excited to go. Or, oh, yeah, you like me? Give me more money. I was afraid of what would happen after saying the truth. And I've learned that I feel better. And guess who else feels better? They do.
Yep.
And I always say, well, if I did anything to discourage you or add to you leaving, I want to say sorry. Never meant that. And if it changes their mind, they stay because I told them the truth. Great. I won't hold it against them. If they still leave, that's okay also. I think that I've just learned that rejection is a way of life. And I think that if you're not getting rejected, like you said, that you're actually leaving something on the table. If you're not failing or getting the no, you're leaving something out on like you didn't leave it all out on the field. And you said you put your best foot forward for the customer and you always dream really big for them. And that is amazing. Like I love that you just said that, and it just makes me think about my team and the people I work with. Like they're my customer in a sense. Like I want to put it all out for them. You want to make 100 grand? I want you to make 200. You want to be a sales manager? I want you to be the general manager. So like let's get used to reassuring people and encouraging them, and just assume. And I'd rather assume everybody has doubt than assume everybody is confident. I think I win that way.
Well, and I think people, I think people better connect when they realize that we're human. You know what I mean? I hate nothing more than trying to chum up with someone that puts off a vibe that they're too good. You never hear someone say, "Hey man, I sure like Beau, even though he's always too good for everyone." Right? The guy that's too good for everyone, that's not meant as a compliment. When you're too good for everyone, that's a diss. And so I think it's okay for people to know we're human. In fact, I would argue that's leadership. It's okay for people to know that we suffer like they do. Getting religious for a minute, mourn
Yeah.
with those that mourn, right?
Mm.
Uh, Too often we're so worried about looking weak.
Yes.
And I think there's such a deeper connection that can happen. And one thing I'll take pride in is I haven't had a lot of employees over the year, and that's just my style, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've had solid employees. I've had great relationships with these people because I care about them and they know I care about them. I'm at that genuine level, and I've seen agency owners or business owners I work with that want zero relationship with their employees.
Yeah.
And
It's not.
a story I'll share with you real quick on that. It was crazy to me. Is I'm in an office one time and I'm visiting with the receptionist, and she is just, I could tell she was out of sorts. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she goes, "My fiance just broke up with me." And I was there to listen to her, and she's bawling her eyes out. And I leave and I go to the back office where the owner was. And he goes, "Hey, what's she all upset about?" And I said, "Well, apparently her fiance just broke up with her." And I kid you not, Beau, he goes, "She was engaged?"
Oh my God. What a jerk.
I remember sitting there thinking, and well, I even asked him, I'm like, "How the hell did you not know that she was engaged?" He says, "I try to stay out of my employees' personal lives."
No. So that is Dude, I had this conversation yesterday with I don't know who it was, an employee maybe, or no, or somebody I was talking to yesterday. I If they offer up, I want to know. I'm not going to say who you drinking with, who you doing sleeping with, all this stuff, but there is a line that I don't want to cross with them, but I do want to know about them. You cannot work side by side with somebody for 40 some hours a week. Dude, people spend more time working with us than they do with their spouses and kids. And if we don't engage them personally, it is such a big miss on our part. So there's a line, but I want them to look up to me and I want to be able to look up to them like in a sense is to say I know you. Because if you want to lead people, they need to know you, like you, and trust you. You might have
Mhm.
heard me say that before. I stole it from a marketing saying back in the day. The marketing saying used to be like, put out marketing and it gets people to know you, like you, and trust you. Well, as a leader, they have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. If you think about leaders that you had in the past that didn't like, you probably one of those three things. You didn't know them very well. They didn't know you. You didn't like them. They didn't like you, or you didn't trust them, or they didn't trust you. So a lot of those things go hand in hand. So, um, yeah, it's sad, like to think that people can work side by side with people and be like, they look at them more of a profit center versus a person. And
Well,
I hate that.
you want to know the dead serious truth on that one? I just remembered it. I was talking to him about it later, and I was like, "Dude, I don't get it." And he goes, "When you get too personal with people, it makes it more difficult, harder to fire them."
Fire. Yeah.
And
And
I'm
it was
like,
all about him.
and
That's all about him.
I relate that to marriage, and I think so much of what we do in life is like dating, whether it be our staff, our clients, our friends. Everything's about courting each other, right? Can you imagine? And there are people I'm sure that do this. Imagine marrying your wife with the daily thought of divorce, because
No.
that's what a lot of these business owners do is they go in and they're preparing themselves for when they fire it's easy. And you hear that all the time: slow to hire, quick to fire. Let's just cut the fire thing out. How about we start to hire with the expectation that it's an eternal marriage,
Yes.
right?
Of
and
course.
and maybe, just maybe, we'll get that reciprocal bond,
So
but if
true.
you go in like never hire a friend because they're hard to fire. Are you kidding me right now? I want people working with me that trust me, that I can trust, that I
I
know
also
have my best interest at heart.
Yes, and I love to bless people that I work with. Why would
Yes.
I want to bless a friend or a friend's wife or a friend's friend? Like those are, I look at this as my way to bless others in the world and help. Judd, I've said recently and lately that if you want to change the world, start with your leadership. Okay, start being a better person, one, but two, start with your leadership. Those that you lead spend so much time with you. If you treat them well, you improve their life, you improve them as a person, you improve their financial situation, you have changed their life. One, you've made it more enjoyable. Have you ever had a spouse that, or like, has your spouse ever hated her job and came home and told you?
Oh
It
yeah.
it makes it ruins your life too. Guess what happens when your spouse is unhappy? You're unhappy. Guess what happens when your spouse is happy at work? You're happier. You're hearing more positivity. Guess what happens? Your kids see it, changes their life, changes their upbringing, changes their household. Guess what happens? They want to strive to be like that because they want to replicate what they see. So you changed one person that was a coworker is now changed. A spouse has changed a household, has changed a generation. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
Just by your personal leadership, you could change the world one person at a time in generations to come. So I don't take it lightly when I get to not only lead people, but own a business that I have to write the checks to them. I take it as an honor that I get to help financially support multiple families. And it's like, I love that. Yeah, you said something too, Judd, if you don't mind me saying, biblical. You're reminding me of something, multiple things. Whoever humbles himself and becomes like this child is the greatest in the kingdom.
Mm.
And Jesus was actually speaking to his disciples because they asked him, who is the greatest in the kingdom? What he actually was telling them is this, is that kids are pretty raw, pretty pure with what they think. I know a lot of kids that think they could jump off a roof and fly. I don't want them to do it, but they think they could. I watched a video last night with my son. This kid put on a cape and he jumped from the top of the stairs to show his dad, and he landed like and bounced, and his dad's like, "See, you can't fly," but like the kid thought he could. Like, so what you're saying is this, Judd. We learn, we learn to self-doubt. We learn to be afraid of rejection. We learn as life goes on, there is such thing as rejection. Kids believe that fathers can prove and do anything. Kids believe there's no such thing as no or rejection. There's no such thing as self-doubt. I can do it. They learn as they go in life all those negative things, and they forget what it was like to be a kid and think that their dad could do everything and had all the power in the world. They forget that rejection and doubt, self-doubt is learned. There was a time where it was never a thought. So if we can think like that, not like an immature child who speaks his mind foolishly, but somebody that can believe that great things are meant to happen and that there is no such thing as rejection.
Well, when I coach these offices I work with, right, about talking to their clients, referring business to me, right,
Yeah.
there's so much fear. And
So much
so
fear.
one thing I had, I'm so glad you brought this up. One thing I had for a while was be the 5-year-old. That was my
Yeah.
motto I left with all of them, right? Because
I like
I
that.
sat in I sat in a seminar one time and the guy got up and he said, okay, it was a room full of adults. Who in here considers himself an artist? And like three hands go up. He goes, who in the room's the best artist? No one's hand goes up. He says, who in the room wants to stand up and sing a song in front of everyone? No hands go up. And he goes, if I did those same questions with a room full of kindergartners, how many hands go up when
Oh,
I say, who's the best artist? He says kids are jumping up and down on their chairs, waving their
I
hand
am,
that
I
they're
am,
the
I am.
best. And who wants to sing in front of the class?
Mm,
They're storming the front of the class because they want to be the line leader. They want to sing. They have no fear, right?
yeah.
They don't understand rejection. And I'm so glad you brought that up because rejection, like you said, is a learned habit. It's a
Mm,
learned trait.
yeah,
We're
it
not
is.
born with rejection. We're not born with fear. And fear is healthy, right? Otherwise, we'd all die
Yes.
young.
Yeah, yes. It is healthy.
But at the same token, there are so many areas. I love that story you just said about the kid jumping off, belly
Oh, dude,
flopping.
it's hilarious. I'm gonna find it and send it to you, by the
Um,
way.
that is so classic. But
Mhm.
it's just in life. I think if we can learn to be more fearless. And I think of leadership, Bo. I was thinking about your podcast, which, by the way, I love your podcast.
Well, thank you.
I do listen to it. Long time listener, first time caller. Right.
I love it.
I'm grateful to be on this with you, but at the
Well, that's
same
nice of you.
token, there's so much to be learned from all these amazing people you bring on because everyone runs their model differently. But when I think of leadership to lead, there has to be someone that follows, right?
Mm,
Dictatorship is totally different because you're forcing people to follow you. A
yes.
true leader is someone that just naturally creates a following, right? And that's my personal opinion, at least. But I think there's a lot of validity to that.
Yes.
And so, how do you get people to follow? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about are they going to follow me or not. Believe in
Mhm.
yourself, right?
Yeah,
If you're not
it's
going to
true.
follow yourself, who's going to follow you?
Mm.
And the other thing is, you said a minute ago that I think is so true. Well, I guess I'll rephrase this a little bit. I was thinking about this with sales and in business in general. Who do people like the most? People follow the people they really like the most. And who do people like the most? They like themselves for the most
So
part.
true. So true.
And if we don't know our employees, we don't know our customers, we don't know the people we're working with, they can't have that bond with us. They can't have that connection. They cannot see the genuine care. And we
It's
don't
true.
always have to be perfect. people don't like perfect people because they're not perfect, right?
So true,
It's
man.
intimidating. And I'm going on an appointment today after we had done here with a client that I got a call 6, 7 months ago. This lady inherited $5 million. I'm sitting in a checking account, right? And they're like, hey, they're interviewing a bunch of advisors and want to know if you can sit down with them and da da da. So I go out and meet with them. Well, her husband has he has a terminal illness. Okay, and so they're only in their early 50s, and she said, I want you, after we meet here, I'm going to have you come back. The next meeting with us will be with my husband because it's really important, even though he may not be around forever, that he trusts who I put my money with. Right.
Right.
And I went back down. I told the same story I told you. I was like, okay, I always worry about building myself up too much. So I was sharing my successes with them and that I'm not a rookie,
Yeah.
but I also shared my failures and how I went through all those struggles. And she called me, and I'll never forget. She told me this months ago. She said, we've decided to work with you. And I want you to know the reason why my husband liked you more than everyone else is you weren't afraid to tell us about your failures.
Wow.
Right.
I love that.
And that was such a learning experience for me is it's okay to be human.
Yeah.
In fact, it's good to be human. That we are human. We're going to fall. And taking
Yes.
it back spiritually, that's the whole purpose of our life on earth is to be
Yeah.
tried and to grow and to learn. And you
So true.
cannot experience joy without sadness.
Mm.
You can't experience success without failure.
Yeah.
It just it's okay. And so
Oh
that's
man.
that's what drives me is as I've learned that my failures are okay, and with each failure, it just opens more opportunity for success.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's okay. Now, I don't
So
like
true.
failure. I don't want to fall on my face every day.
Yeah. I'm not trying to attract failure, but I'm not afraid of it.
But
Right.
yeah, and too often we see, and I think that's a hard part, especially like in sports, like your Tom Brady's, your Michael Jordan's, all that. We just see the success and they always tell the stories, Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team. My dad would tell me that when I didn't make the team, right? I'm like, well, I'm not Michael Jordan for one, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
And so did the guy down the street, and he never made the team.
Yeah.
So
He never ever
yeah,
made the team again.
it's not going to happen. But the point is, nobody's perfect, and but gosh darn it, if we're not striving for perfection, we're missing out.
Dude,
You know,
that's so good. So good. It's true, man. Is everything you're saying just resonates with me. And I think a lot of what you have said today, believe it or not, has just been reinforcement in your own self, like reinforcement in that you are great, reinforcement that you can do great things. And you've said it a couple times, and I actually have a saying very similar. It's like, you have to be the first one to think that you're great if you want other people to think you're great. So, and it is that self validation of like saying, yeah, I am great, because it doesn't really matter what anybody says. Like they could say negative or positive, I can brush it all off. So it really does matter what I believe in myself and about myself. And if you believe that you are great and created for greatness, then you will achieve greatness. And it's when I actually allowed myself to start thinking like, I am good at business. I'm going to be great at business.
yep,
I am a good communicator. I want to be a great communicator. I want to have a podcast. I want to speak at conferences. And I think I am great. And other people will eventually see it. My thought used to be is like, I'm great, but why does no one else think I'm great? And that was such a sad place to live for a
yeah,
while when I started to think I think I'm great, but no one else thinks I'm great. And every once in a while I slip back into this self thought of like, having to prove that to other people. And that's not what this is about. This is about you believing that you're great and you were created by God to be great. And what you're great at is not what I'm great at. Sometimes it's the same, most of the time it's different. So we are all created differently. And I think that's the beautiful part of humans and the way we're created is that if if everybody was created the same greatness, exactly the same, it'd be a very boring world. Very boring. If everybody was a great singer and a great artist, it would be boring,
Yeah.
right?
That's why I can't sing. I got to keep it real, right? I got to
Right.
I got to help elevate those that can. But you just said something too that I think is so important. I wouldn't say you said it, but the thought went through my head when you were saying this is if we don't hear we're great or we don't have I go back to this Hall of Fame thing, for example. I'm not 100% sure, not to knock on my dad, but I'm not 100% sure my dad ever told me he was proud of me until he and my mom greeted me after I walked the stage for Hall of Fame.
That's
Right. And I remember giving my dad giving me this big hug, and he's like, wow, I'm so proud of you. And I remember how that felt. Right.
so
And
different.
not that my dad was never not proud of me, but he didn't express it. And
Yeah, there
so
was a
where I'm
different.
going with that is one thing I just took from our conversation is I need to do a better job of expressing to others how proud I am of them,
Yeah.
how great they are. Even if it's a person, if someone's waiting on you at the restaurant, you're amazing. The service you gave, the attentiveness that you showed today, I just want you to know means a lot to me because that one comment can help elevate their personal
So
growth,
much.
right? We
So
don't get the
much.
daily reinforcement. What's wrong with us telling others? And I'm going to take that from today's
I
conversation
love that.
is
That's a good
letting
actionable
people
step.
know, not just our staff and ourselves and our family, but others that we may not even know. You never
Yeah.
know how that one comment can drive them.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too, because I mean, just talking to you makes my brain think too, even though I did say that, it just made me realize like we create really high bars. I'm a high achiever because I set bars really high because I want to achieve great things and greatness. And I've proven to myself, like we talked about, you did 100K, then you did 500K, then you did a million, then you did 2 million, right? You've you've grown with what you've expected. So for you now, you might say, good is like 2.2 or great is 2.2 million now. I don't know, or matching that again. But I want to remind you and myself and everybody listening is that if you've created a really high bar for others around you that work with you, your wife, your spouse, your kids, and your employees, and they're living up to that consistently, but they're not overachieving it, you created such a high already achievement for them. You should still say, I'm proud of you. You're so consistent. I'm proud of you for who you are. You should be proud of yourself. Just reinforcing them because, like, I think about my sales leader, Rachel, my operations director, Kathy. I've set such a high bar for them. They hit it majority of the time. I do try to tell them I'm proud of them consistently, but the one things that I struggle probably the most with is I set a very high bar for my kids because I know what
Mhm.
they can achieve in life when they shoot high. But I also need to remind them that I believe they're great, that am proud of them, and I think that I try to do that, but I think that I could always do more. We can't do too much in that side for other people, specifically our kids. They look to us the most. Like you talked about your dad, and my dad was very similar. I can remember more of the negative conversations than positive, but he provided and he worked hard. I know he loved me, but I don't remember some of those conversations if they ever happened. So I am thankful that I can learn from that and maybe like hoped to hear those things. Like, I love you no matter what. When you lose at something, say, proud of you for giving it your all. That's it. You don't have to keep going.
Yep.
And I think I add too much after that. I'm proud of you for going out there, but I do think you could have scored, or I do think you dropped your shoulder, you took your eye off the ball. You
Yep.
like, I don't need to do that. They know that. So I think that positive reinforcement is so key. So Judd, we're coming to the end here of the hour. So I've been trying to keep it. I've let these things go super long. I think there's a sweet spot between 45 to an hour. Some people would say 30 minutes. Some people would say 2 hours. Beau, we want more, and I love those people that say they want more. So, but Judd, I just want to give you a chance, as we wrap up the call. Is there anything else that you really, or this episode, is there anything else that you want to leave other people with today? Any advice, any thoughts?
Yeah, you just inspired me to share this. My kids are older, right?
Yeah,
I've got 24-year-old, 20. I mean, they're going to get a lot older than they are now, but
yeah.
relatively speaking, 24-year-old, 22-year-old daughters out of the house. Don't and I wasn't good at this. Don't ever shy away from positive reinforcement with your kids, especially. Um, I'm going to leave with a really personal story, real quick. My daughter, who I spent years and years coaching, spent a lot of time with, um, at 14 years old, attempted suicide.
Wow.
We were within minutes of losing her. Man, she was hospitalized for, I think it was about 2 months. Um,
Terrifying.
it is the worst thing to ever go through as a parent.
I
And I
can
know
only
there's probably
imagine.
worse things in my life. That's the
I
worst
mean,
thing.
that's bad. Yes.
And
It's
the
tough.
and the last thing I ever want is for any of my kids to have regret or um, she's learned from it. She's amazing to this day. She's incredible. She's an advocate. She helps people. But then I look at my boys, and my 19-year-old said to me just recently, "Dad, I feel like you're not proud of me." Right?
Mm.
And I think back to what my daughter went through is I still have regrets to this day. Had I done more, had I shown more, would things be different? And I don't know that they would.
We don't know.
We don't know. But again, it goes back to what we control, and what we control is that positive reinforcement with people around us. And most importantly, the people that matter the most are those living within your house, your wife, your kids, heck, your dog. My dog gets the most positive reinforcement of anyone in my house.
You're a good boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
Maybe I
girl.
need to
Yeah.
start treating my kids like that. But just think of the
Yeah.
confidence we can instill in our kids from such a young age if we can find three positives and one negative. For every
God,
negative, we find three positives to share with them.
man.
And that would be my takeaway today from just talking to you, man. Is
What
I'm
a
gonna I'm gonna find a stranger to give reinforcement to, and in doing so, and obviously my kids, that's first and foremost. But in doing so, I think it will help reinforce my own personal growth.
man. I love that. And I love that story. Um, I don't love this. I don't
Yeah,
love
I
what
know what you
happened,
mean. I know what you mean.
but I love that you shared it. One, I just want to tell you, man, thank you. I love you, man. You're a good dude. Proud of you. I'm honored to have you on the podcast. Honored to call you a friend. It was a blast sitting with you in Texas at the Leaders
Yeah,
Forum, hanging out with you. We don't always get to spend time at these events. We're usually all over the place, and that was a fun time sitting next to you, messing around and listening at the same time.
it was
If
great.
Laura Harris hears, we weren't messing around, we were listening.
Yeah,
So, but I I really, really appreciate you. I think with you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say something crazy, and I need you to not self-doubt it immediately. But I think the best is still yet to come for you because you
yeah,
could easily say, no, it's not, it's past. So I think the best is yet to come.
without
And
question.
I think like you will determine what that means and looks like though. You may think it's 2, 3 million of premium. I think it may be something you're not really thinking about. So I think you can blow by that business sense, but I think I'm thinking more profound and legacy wise. I think the best is still yet to come, and the fact that you can self reflect is such a strong skill and strength of a leader and a great man and a father. So good job on that, and continue to do that. It's huge for me to hear other men self reflect and admit that they could do more and could be better and not push the blame like our maybe our fathers did or just ignore it altogether. So, I think it's important. My kids need to. What I got from this too from you is my kids need to hear my failures and how I overcame them, not just the great things I've accomplished in
Yeah,
my life. And because my son is both of them, all three of them have failed at things that I need to share. I've also failed at, and I've because here's how I've overcome it. So, dude, love you. Listen, if you're still listening to this podcast, I have to say thank you. for real. The Conviction of a Leader wouldn't be anything it is today without people like you listening at home. This is stuff that we put out for free because we care about you, Judd. Without people like you, this podcast would not be what it was. You wouldn't have listened to it if it didn't have great people like you on it in the past. I want to say thank you to you for listening. Thank you to all those that listen. It means so much to me. You are actually helping me outlive or live my dreams, which when I was a kid, I always dreamed of doing this. I dreamed of being on the radio, speaking, coaching, and you have all made my dreams come true because without you, they're nothing. So I want to thank you all. Um, and I'm just so proud of like the podcast and people like you, Judd. So thank you so much, like for coming on and share this with all your friends and family if you're still listening and turn on notifications. Thank you for listening to the Conviction of a Leader.